Anxiety isn't a punishment or a flaw. It's your brain's emergency system firing alarms, sometimes too loudly, sometimes in the wrong place. But make no mistake, this noise means something is demanding your attention. Pretending it's just bad or wrong only digs you deeper into confusion and helplessness. The real problem isn't anxiety itself. It's how most people respond to it, by pushing it down, ignoring it, or running from it. That only trains your brain to scream louder next time. Anxiety is a message, not an enemy. It's raw data your mind desperately wants you to understand. Managing anxiety means stepping into the driver's seat. It's about decoding the message, recognizing the threat, and then choosing how you react, not through fear or resistance, but with clear, controlled action. Silence the noise? No, master the signal. Anxiety is not some mysterious curse or a sign of personal failure. At its core, it's an ancient biological alarm system, wired into your brain and body through millions of years of evolution. Edmund Bourne, in his Anxiety and Phobia Workbook, explains this system as designed to keep you alive, to detect threats, and prepare you instantly for fight or flight. When this system activates, your heart races, your breathing quickens, and your muscles tense. It's brutal and uncomfortable, but it's your body's way of saying, get ready. Danger is near. The catch? Modern life has changed the game, but our biology hasn't caught up. We rarely face predators or immediate physical threats anymore. Instead, the threat is often in our minds, imagined, anticipated, or exaggerated dangers. Your brain can't always tell the difference between a real threat and a what-if. So the alarm system goes off for situations that aren't actually life-threatening. The result is a body primed for survival, while the actual danger might be as simple as a stressful meeting or a social interaction. This mismatch is why anxiety symptoms feel so overwhelming. Your heart pounding feels like a heart attack. Your shallow breath feels like suffocation. Your sweat and trembling feel like collapse. But these symptoms, as intense as they are not harmful in themselves. They are byproducts of a system doing exactly what it's supposed to do, preparing you to react. Understanding this biological fact is a crucial step to reducing panic. When you realize these sensations aren't signs of imminent disaster, the grip of fear loosens. The psychological side of anxiety is just as important. Anxiety isn't only physical. It's tightly linked to how your brain processes threat. Your mind creates narratives about danger, often catastrophizing, jumping to worst-case scenarios, or fixating on uncertainty. These thoughts fuel the alarm system, making the physical symptoms even worse. Anxiety feeds on itself in a vicious feedback loop. Anxious thoughts trigger bodily symptoms, which in turn increase anxious thoughts. Knowing that anxiety is both biological and psychological is empowering. It means anxiety isn't a personal weakness or a character flaw. It's a system running on outdated wiring mixed with mental habits that can be changed. Recognizing this dual nature allows you to approach anxiety not with shame or avoidance, but with curiosity and strategy. You begin to see anxiety as a process you can observe, understand, and eventually influence. One of the most practical takeaways from Bourne's work is that knowledge alone can diffuse anxiety's power. Simply telling yourself, "This is my body reacting to perceived danger, not actual danger," interrupts the panic cycle. It puts you back in control because the fear loses its mysterious, uncontrollable edge. You learn to tolerate the sensations rather than fight them, which paradoxically makes them less intense. The bottom line, anxiety symptoms are uncomfortable, but they are not inherently dangerous. Your brain's alarm system is misfiring, but it's doing so with good intentions to keep you safe. The challenge is to retrain this system, to reframe the signals, and to break the feedback loop of fear and physical reaction. That's where the real work of managing anxiety begins. Anxiety doesn't just live in your body, it thrives in your thoughts. David D. Burns, one of the pioneers of cognitive therapy, nails it. Anxiety feeds on distorted thinking. When you're anxious, your brain slips into a tunnel vision of doom. endlessly replaying what-if scenarios that aren't grounded in reality. These thoughts hijack your mind, turning small problems into catastrophic disasters before they even happen. The first brutal truth: your brain is not your friend when anxious. It's a relentless storyteller, spinning worst-case scenarios like, what if I fail? Or, what if something terrible happens? These thoughts are automatic, reflexive, and they feel true, but often they're not. They're cognitive distortions, mental traps that exaggerate danger and erase nuance. If you don't catch them, they become self-fulfilling prophecies, dragging your mood and energy into a pit. That's where cognitive restructuring comes in, a technique David Burns champions as essential. It's about stopping those runaway thoughts cold and questioning their validity. When anxiety strikes, don't let the story run unchecked. Pause. Ask yourself, what evidence do I actually have that this fear will come true? Often the evidence is thin or non-existent. Your mind is filling in gaps with assumptions and biases, not facts. Next, challenge your assumptions head-on. Are you catastrophizing, jumping to the worst possible outcome without reason? Are you ignoring alternative explanations or positive possibilities? Cognitive restructuring forces you to test your fears against reality, exposing the gaps and exaggerations in your thinking. This isn't some vague, positive thinking. It's disciplined mental work, demanding honesty and rigor. Then shift your perspective to something more balanced. What's a reasonable, grounded way to view this situation? Instead of I will fail and be ruined, maybe it's I might face some difficulties, but I can handle them or learn from them. This balanced view doesn't erase anxiety, but cuts its fuel. It weakens the emotional charge behind the thoughts, breaking the cycle of panic and dread. By regularly practicing cognitive restructuring, you rewire your brain's default mode. Instead of looping in doom and gloom, you train it to pause, analyze, and respond with clarity. This mental habit disrupts the automatic fear response and builds resilience. Anxiety becomes less of an uncontrollable force and more of a signal you can interpret and act on wisely. Anxiety doesn't just live in your head. It's a full-body experience. That pounding heart, tight chest, and restless energy are all physical reactions your nervous system is triggering. Recognizing this means you can fight anxiety where it's happening, in your body. Edmund Bourne's workbook emphasizes practical skills that shift you out of panic and into control. Grounding techniques are not magic cures, but they are powerful tools to disrupt anxiety's grip. One of the simplest and most effective grounding tools is controlled breathing. Anxiety hijacks your breath, making it shallow and rapid, which feeds panic. Slowing your breath down, especially with diaphragmatic breathing, flips the switch on your nervous system from fight or flight to rest and digest. The classic method: inhale deeply through your nose for 4 seconds, then exhale slowly for 6. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, calming your body and mind. It's science-backed and immediately accessible. Progressive muscle relaxation is another method Bourne champions. Anxiety tenses your muscles like a coiled spring, but holding that tension only amplifies discomfort and stress. By intentionally tensing, then releasing muscle groups, starting from your feet and moving up, you break the cycle of physical stress. This technique reconnects you to your body in a controlled way, showing you that relaxation is possible, even when anxiety screams otherwise. Mindfulness ties these practices together by anchoring you in the present moment. Anxiety thrives on future fears and past regrets. Mindfulness forces your attention onto simple, concrete experiences: the feel of your breath, the sound of a distant bird, the sensation of your feet touching the ground. This focused awareness interrupts runaway thoughts and breaks the feedback loop between mind and body that escalates anxiety. These grounding techniques don't erase anxiety instantly. They give you leverage over it. When practiced consistently, they strengthen your ability to step out of the chaos and into calm. They train your nervous system to respond differently, rewiring it over time for greater resilience. The goal isn't to eliminate anxiety, because that's impossible, but to reduce its intensity and frequency. Using grounding tools requires discipline and patience. They won't work if you half-ass them or only pull them out when panic hits the roof. Integrate them into daily habits, especially during calm moments, so they become second nature when anxiety strikes. This proactive approach builds psychological muscle and self-trust, which are your best defenses. Ultimately, practical grounding techniques are about reclaiming your body and mind. They remind you that anxiety is not an all-powerful force, but a signal you can influence. By breathing deeply, relaxing muscles, and staying present, you interrupt anxiety's cycle and find a foothold in reality. That foothold is the foundation for real change. The first brutal fact about anxiety: fighting it head-on often makes it worse. Both David Burns and Edmund Bourne stress this critical truth: resistance fuels resistance. When you try to push anxiety away, suppress it, or pretend it's not there, you give it more power. Anxiety thrives on conflict. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means refusing the battle that drains your energy and worsens symptoms. Acceptance is simple in theory but brutal in practice. It requires you to face anxiety as it is: uncomfortable, intrusive, persistent, and acknowledge its presence without judgment. This means dropping the good versus bad narrative and stepping back to observe anxiety as just another experience passing through your mind and body. You don't have to like it, but you do have to stop fighting it. This mindset shift creates space. When you accept anxiety instead of resisting, you remove the emotional charge that keeps the cycle spinning. Anxiety loses its role as the enemy and becomes just background noise, a signal. Yes, but one that no longer hijacks your actions or defines your day. It's a radical but necessary move from conflict to coexistence. Commitment is the second piece. Acceptance alone is passive. It's not surrender. You don't accept anxiety so you can collapse into avoidance or stagnation. Instead, acceptance clears the way to commit to your values, your goals, your life. Anxiety will still be there, but it no longer controls your choices. You act in spite of it, not because it disappeared. This approach flips the traditional battle with anxiety on its head. Rather than waiting for calm to start living, you start living while anxious. You train your mind to hold discomfort lightly, as a temporary companion rather than a dictator. This is psychological courage, choosing meaningful action despite fear, uncertainty, and physical discomfort. Both Burns and Bourne underline that this acceptance commitment framework isn't easy or quick. It demands persistent practice, patience, and self-compassion. You will falter. You will want to run. But every moment you choose acceptance and act according to your values, you weaken anxiety's grip and strengthen your own resilience. Ultimately, acceptance and commitment give you freedom. Freedom from the exhausting war with your own mind. Freedom to reclaim your life, even when anxiety is present. This is the paradox. You gain control not by erasing anxiety, but by refusing to let it control you. Managing anxiety isn't about quick fixes or one-off tricks. It's a long game, a set of habits and choices that build your mental and physical resilience over time. Think of it like training a muscle. You don't get strong from a single workout. You need consistency, effort, and smart strategy. Without that, anxiety will keep cycling back, stronger and more relentless. The foundation of resilience starts with your body. Sleep is non-negotiable. Poor sleep wrecks your nervous system and fuels anxiety like gasoline on a fire. Prioritize quality sleep with routines, environment control, and clear boundaries around screens and caffeine. Exercise isn't optional either. Movement releases chemicals that calm your brain, improves mood, and reduces physical tension. Even a daily walk can chip away at anxiety's hold. Speaking of stimulants, caffeine is often overlooked as a culprit. It spikes your heart rate, triggers jitters, and mimics anxiety symptoms, fueling the feedback loop you want to break. Cutting back or eliminating caffeine isn't a weakness. It's smart self-care. If you're serious about managing anxiety, this is a low-hanging fruit that many ignore. Social connection is another pillar people underestimate. Isolation feeds anxiety and depression. Human connection disrupts it. Developing and maintaining supportive relationships is essential. That doesn't mean you need a crowd, but one or two trusted people to lean on. Friends, family, therapists can make all the difference. Vulnerability is tough, but it's a necessity for resilience. Professional help is not a last resort. It's a powerful tool. Cognitive behavioral therapy is backed by decades of research as one of the most effective treatments for anxiety. It teaches you to identify, challenge, and change thought patterns and behaviors fueling your anxiety. Medications, when prescribed responsibly, can also be life-saving. There's no shame in using every tool available. Remember, managing anxiety is a skill set. Like learning to drive or mastering an instrument, it requires practice, patience, and sometimes a teacher. You'll stumble, you'll get frustrated, but each step forward builds strength. The more consistent you are, the more control you reclaim. This is not about perfection, but persistence. In the end, building resilience through lifestyle and support isn't just about reducing anxiety symptoms. It's about creating a foundation for a fuller, freer life. One where anxiety exists but doesn't dominate. Where you aren't just surviving, but actively living on your own terms. Anxiety is hardwired into your biology, a system built to protect you but prone to misfiring in today's world. It isn't some enemy to vanquish or erase completely. Expecting that is setting yourself up for failure and frustration. Instead, the real goal is mastery, managing anxiety so it stops running your life, so it becomes a manageable signal rather than a paralyzing force. This requires more than wishful thinking. It demands understanding the biological and psychological roots of anxiety and how it shapes your experience. Reclaiming your power over anxiety means facing discomfort head-on, challenging the lies your mind tells, grounding yourself in the present, and committing to habits that strengthen your resilience over time. None of this is quick or easy. There will be setbacks, resistance, and moments when anxiety seems to win. But each deliberate step forward, no matter how small, breaks another link in the chain anxiety tries to shackle you with. This is the raw, unvarnished path to freedom. Not perfect calm, but controlled courage.